A lot of guys make it to selection, to the Q course, and they move on to the Special Forces groups. Every year, guys, we pump out all these dudes. However, once these guys get to the regiment, they have a lot of issues. You have a lot of guys that get DUIs. You have a lot of guys that become wife beaters. You have a lot of guys that get addicted to drugs. You got a lot of guys that don't make it to the end of their careers. That type of stuff is going to happen, guys. It is what it is. It comes with the territory. With all that said, I want to share with you 10 metrics that you can use to gauge whether or not you are winning at being a Special Forces operator. Hey, if this is your first time watching me, my name is Jay. I'm a retired Army Green Beret. After doing 20 plus years, 15 of it in special operations, a couple of months ago, I came out on the back end, fully retired, with my pension intact, no Article 15, no DUIs, no drug addiction. On top of that, guys, I was able to do the job successfully at every position, minus being a sergeant major. So today, I wanted to jump on here and share with you 10 things based on my experience, based on my career, that you can use to know if you are crushing it at being a Special Forces operator. Whether you are 3 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in, 15, or even getting ready to retire. These are things that I noticed based on my time in the groups. I want to share them with you guys because if you're not crushing it in one area, you might be crushing it in others. And you can always adjust, you could always flex to fix whatever the issue is so you could successfully manage your career and retire and not get yourself in trouble. With all that said, guys, let's get into these metrics. All right, so the very first metric that we're going to talk about, guys, is going to be if you are successfully married with no divorce. That is one way that you can tell that you are crushing it at being a Special Forces, guys. Check it out. When I first came in back in 2010, guys, you weren't a true Special Forces soldier if you didn't have at least 2 or 3 divorces under your belt. That's just the way it was. Now, thinking about it, what a shitty way to judge whether or not you are a true SF guy. There's other metrics that we can use, but it was happening so often to where it became a badge of honor. I was a victim to that myself, guys. I have 1 divorce under my belt, and I don't plan on having another. So a way that you can fix that issue, guys, is you have to prioritize. Instead of making the ODA, instead of making the job priority, start prioritizing your family, your wife. Start going out on date nights. Start talking everything through. Start leaving the work at the office. Don't bring your work home and take it out on your family. If you do those small things, guys, I guarantee you it will help your marriage. Why do I say that? Because that's what I had to start doing. After my first divorce, I sat down and I started to realize what part I played in it, and I changed a couple of things. And that's helped me throughout my second marriage. Do not play into the stigma of having multiple divorces just because you're a Special Forces guy. Moving on to number 9. Another way that you can tell if you're crushing it at being a Special Forces guy is, hey, you're not in jail. You're still out walking around and you still have your freedom. I know way too many SF guys that are locked up right now because they were doing dumb stuff. Or they were doing what the mission required, but they got caught. So don't be one of those dudes. Make sure you know the rules and abide by them. And if you're going to operate in the gray, just keep in mind, you operate in the gray enough, eventually you're going to get caught. Moving on to number 8. Another way that you can tell that you are crushing it at being a Special Forces guy is if you don't have any addiction. What do I mean by addiction? Guys, I'm talking about addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, addiction to porn, addiction to females, whatever it might be, whatever vice you might have that the regiment impose on you, you have to take personal responsibility and find a way to break that addiction. Once you do, you'll get your freedom back and you can do whatever you want, whenever you want it, guys, knowing that you have full control of yourself. So that is number 8. Moving on to number 7. This one is very important to me. You know you are crushing it as a Special Forces guy if you are lucky enough to end up on a team with a good dynamic. There's a lot of teams out there that don't have that. Just because they're an SF guy and they made it through the selection process, they made it through the Q course and they get the group, doesn't mean that they're a fit. You can be on a team with a bunch of SF dudes and the team dynamics is just shitty to where you go to work every day feeling miserable. So the fact that you are on a good team with a good dynamics and you have guys that care about you tells you that you are crushing it at being an SF guy. Moving on to number 6. You are crushing it as an SF guy if you've never lost a comrade in combat. Now I know if you're an SF guy and you're getting ready to retire, more than likely this one doesn't apply to you. We've all have lost buddies in combat to the global war on terrorism. But if you are one of these newer guys that just got to regiment and you haven't been involved in any firefights yet and you haven't deployed to war, so on and so forth, guys, enjoy that time. Enjoy that mental freedom of knowing that you haven't lost anybody at war, because once you do, guys, it does something to your psyche. So enjoy that. If that is you, you're definitely crushing it as a Special Forces guy. Enjoy it now because it won't last if you stay in the regiment long enough. Number 5, guys, you are crushing it as a Special Forces guy if you are mentally stable. For those of us that have spent 20 plus years fighting the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, a lot of us aren't mentally stable. We've lost loved ones. We've lost battle buddies. We've watched our buddies die. That will change you mentally whether you want to or not. And there's a stigma in the regiment to where a lot of guys won't go get the help that they need to become mentally stable. Throughout my career, I was lucky enough to shake that stigma off and to go sit down with somebody and spoke about what I experienced. That within itself put me on the right track to become mentally stable. So if you have done that throughout your military career and you're to the point now where you can call yourself mentally stable and not suicidal, then you, my friend, are crushing it as a Special Forces guy. Coming in at number 4, guys, you are crushing it as a Special Forces guy if you realize that your career will end one day and you are planning for life after Special Forces. Now, this is something that I was lucky enough to do at a very early stage in my career. I knew that it was coming to an end, so I did a lot of college and I started investing properly to where once that time came, I didn't have to worry about what I was going to do next. I had it all mapped out, financially at least. I still had to work and find new purpose, but the sooner that you realize 20, 25, 30, 35, whatever it may be, that it will come to an end, then the better off you'll be at planning the next phase of your life. So if you have made that realization, guys, you are crushing it as an SF guy. Moving on to number 3. You are crushing it as a Special Forces guy if you have your characters, your morals, and your ethics intact. What do I mean by that? A lot of guys hit the regiment at a very young age. And once they get there, they let themselves get corrupted by the stigma, by the beast, by the monster that is being a Special Forces guy. There's a lot of temptations out there, guys. And if you don't have your non-negotiables, you can easily get swallowed up and become someone that you come out 20 years later that you don't recognize. So if you have your character, your morals, your ethics, and your non-negotiables intact, you, my friend, crushed it as a Special Forces guy. Coming in at number 2, guys, you are crushing it as a Special Forces guy if you have a community of brothers that you can call at any given time when you need them. Now, you may think that this is an automatic thing that a lot of SF guys get, but that's not the case at all, guys. You still have shitbags in the regiment that can't pick up a phone and call somebody for help because they've burned so many bridges. That does happen in the regiment. So if you have a community, if you have a phone full of contacts that you can pick up and dial someone at any given time and they'll come when you call, then you've done a good job being a SF guy, being a good teammate, and you crushed it as an SF guy. Last but not least, guys, you're crushing it as an SF guy if you made it to 20 years of military service in the regiment and you've successfully retired. You've got your pension, you got your disability, and you are enjoying retirement. This doesn't happen, guys. I'm telling you right now, the few of us that make it to the end, we're considered lucky. I consider myself lucky for the amount of stuff that I went through, for the amount of operating in the gray that I did, and for the amount of deployments and firefights that I've been to, and to successfully be sitting here with you right now, knowing that I've made it and I'm retired and I no longer have the weight on the world off my shoulders. That is a success within itself. So if you're out there and you're like me, you're retired, you're enjoying the rest of your life, you, my friend, crushed it for the past 20 years. You, my friend, crushed your Special Forces career, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. Guys, if I've left anything out that you want to share that let guys know if they're doing a great job as a Special Forces guy, leave it in the comment section below. I really enjoy doing this segment because it took me a while to think through all the bad stuff that could happen to you. And in doing that, I realized that, holy crap, like I've actually done a decent job staying true to myself while I was in the regiment. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.